All right, so I wanted to discuss this topic here really briefly and give you a little bit of a history lesson, just go through some of the quotes and broken promises that I'd like to call them over the years from presidential candidates to presidents like Richard Nixon to Obama, and now we have presidential hopeful Joe Biden talking about curing cancer in his term if he's elected as president. So I wanted to make sure the population, individuals out there are well aware of what history has really taught us about relying upon our government and sadly the medical community or Big Pharma community in battling or winning this war on cancer. We need to really understand that we need to take our health in our own hands and not keep just shelling out dollars to Big Pharma in the pharmaceutical industry. That's really the point of this. We need to understand that they have failed us. They failed us miserable. The CDC, the government, we can't keep giving them money. The people have failed us over and over again and given us time and time again a broken promise. So seeing this on the news, Joe Biden promises to cure cancer if he's elected as president. So he'll be running the next term, I guess. So this is the same thing said by his former president, as Joe Biden was the vice president during the Obama era. In the State of the Union in 2016, Obama declares U.S. should cure cancer in a final address to Congress, he said. So in 1971, we had Richard Nixon basically declaring the war on cancer. But I want you to notice the number of deaths, the mortality, according to CDC's vital statistics, U.S. vital statistics, the number of people actually dying from cancer. I'll have at the bottom of each one of these slides that has a quote or statement about cancer or the promises made. So 337,398 was the number of people who died in 1971 from cancer in the United States. And I do realize that from then till now that there had been an increase in longevity or time, but not that much when you look at the current mortality rates or total longevity rate. So how long somebody's going to live if they live in the United States. We're actually seeing that the next generation, the generation that's occurring right now, that we're seeing a decline in longevity. We're seeing a decline in how long somebody is expected to live in the United States. So we look forward to something like penicillin for cancer, and I hope within the next decade. This was a individual from Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in 1953, and the death rate was roughly 230,000 people in the United States. There is for the first time, another broken promise here, there is for the first time a scent of victory in the air, Reader's Digest, an article on chemotherapy, and this was in 1957. And at that moment in time, in 1957, we saw 253,000 people roughly die from cancer. So that's 1957, and note that that's when the discovery of chemotherapy basically came about. That was when they hailed it as this going to be this cure for cancer, and yet that's the same thing we use to treat cancer now. Practically the primary drug protocol, the primary pharmaceutical protocol for cancer is still chemotherapy. So really, where have we come? And in fact, if you go through the documents, you go through the medical literature, you'll find that the less use or less amount of chemotherapy they give, which I say if you see it in the medical literature where they're talking about less and less chemotherapy is bringing about better and better survival, overall survival, when people are being treated for cancer with chemotherapy. Less is better, they're saying now. Pretty soon, when are they going to figure out? I always say, when are they going to figure out that none is actually the best thing they could possibly do? Because when you look at less and less is better, it's just sad that we still use an archaic and barbaric, poison to think that we're actually creating health in somebody. But we are so close to a cure for cancer, we lack only the will and the kind of money that went into putting a man on the moon. This American Cancer Society full-page ad in New York Times, that was 1969. And again, we saw the number of people dying from cancer go up significantly from the dates prior to this. So thinking about that, if you really read that statement, they needed money. They wanted money. What was their real focus about? And that's sadly, these front groups like the American Cancer Society and others are really more about the money than they are about serving, helping, and preventing cancer. If the American Cancer Society was about, the National Cancer Institute was about preventing cancer and seeing less people die from cancer, then they'd have a lot more TV ads warning people about the side effects of antibiotic drugs, about the side effects of medications for heartburn, the side effects of medications for blood pressure, and the side effects of many other chemicals sprayed on and used on our food. If they are really about preventing cancer and seeing less people die from cancer, then they'd be warning people about the things they know and science already has proven cause cancer. We're going to talk briefly about that in just a minute. So with $1 billion, 10 years, we could lick cancer. That was said in 1969 as well. This is a testimony to Congress by the director of the MD Anderson Hospital and Tumor Institute. And again, 1969, we still saw around 320,000 people dying of cancer each year. This is actually one of the most truthful statements I could find out there in the literature. And this is from 1975. And this is Dr. James Watson when he was asked about the National Cancer Program. So our National Cancer Institute and National Cancer Programs, you know, the studying of cancer, those types of things. And this was 3 years after Nixon declared war on cancer. And as you can see, the mortality rate went up since 1971 until 1975. But thinking about this guy, it was a Nobel Prize winner. He won the Nobel Prize because he actually, him and another fellow were actually able to discover the helix, structure of DNA. I believe that's why he won the Nobel Prize. And then in 2016, he was asked about, like Obama's statements and others, he was asked about the cancer program to the date. So he was still around. I think he's still alive today. I know that he was succumbing to some cardiac health problems. But DNA pioneer James Watson, the cancer moonshot is crap. And he's saying what Obama was claiming to be able to do or we should do in America is crap. But there is still hope, he believes. It's good to have hope that we would see less people die of cancer in the future, but it is a crapshoot and it's completely ridiculous to continue to rely on the same organizations, the same companies, and the same government. And that's exactly what James Watson was saying in this article. And if you TWD in the comments on Facebook here, you can get a quick link. We'll message you and we'll get you the links to the articles that I'm discussing here if you'd like to read them for yourself. And we'll be going through a brief research article at the very end of this to really help people understand that even when the National Cancer Institute, American Cancer Society, other medical places and billboards will say it in October that we're winning the war on cancer, we're seeing less people die of cancer, but actually we're seeing more people die of cancer, not less people. And we'll be talking about how they skew and manipulate the statistics to continue to lie to people. It really truly is lies when you look at it, because they are doing nothing more than manipulating statistics to get the numbers they desire so that they can tell you, look, cancer rates and death rates have declined by 26%. That's one of the stats you'll see here in a minute. But this James Watson saying the depressing thing about the cancer moonshot, which is kind of touted by Obama, is that is the same old people getting together, forming committees, and the same old ideas, and it's all crap. So just like he said in 1975 that our national cancer programs were nothing but, S.H. shiitake, It's actually a truthful statement. So one of the only truthful people out there, over the years was somebody who won a Nobel Prize, really discovered stuff about genetics, human genome, those things. And when you read the article, the guy breaks it down pretty simply. He says the same genes that we're saying cause the initiation or the beginning of cancer are not the same genes that cause the metastatic deadly cancers. And in fact, research has really been able to show us the light of day and shed the light on the fact that it is not genetics that are causing these epidemics of health crises in America. It is in fact our environment and what we're doing to our environment, the pollution and the medication and the medical intervention, and then ultimately just everything we do in this nation, it seems, when it comes to food and other things, we're regulating people into a completely toxic disease-ridden state. It really is, and you'll see some evidence of that here in a second. The next few years, we will see the emergence of, so back to the lies. Next few years, we will see the emergence of an arsenal of new cancer drugs. This is an individual, Lucene Israel Conquering Cancer, 1978. That's what they said in 1978. Some 35 years of intense effort focused on improving treatment must be judged as a qualified failure. This doctor in the New England Journal of Medicine, and I would agree with that. It really is. It's a complete failure over the last 35 years, and that was in 1986. And as you can see, we literally saw close to a doubling of the number of people dying from cancer from 1953 to 1986. We go on, cancer deaths can be cut in half by the year 2000. And this was Peter Greenwell, an MD with the National Cancer Institute. So our government cancer, government committee on cancer, saying in 1989 that by the year 2000, they were saying, this was their broken promise, that they said they would be able to cut cancer deaths in half. So really quickly there, you can see 1989, roughly just shy of 500,000. And then in 2000, it wasn't cut in half, it was actually 552,000 roughly. So again, going back, we had Obama last time saying that in 2016, that for the loved ones we've all lost, for the family we can still save. Let's make America the country that cures cancer once and for all. And in 2016, we saw some of the highest rates ever before in history of cancer deaths. And now his vice president, now running for president in the next election, Joe Biden, saying, "I promise you, if I am elected President, you're going to see the single most important thing that changes America. We're going to cure cancer." I don't understand how Americans can literally fall for the same old promises over and over again, the same old generic statements of let's beat cancer, give us more of your taxpayer money, and we'll fund Big Pharma, who's going to profit from your suffering and illness. And we're just going to give them more money. We have spent trillions and trillions of dollars on cancer research. We have taken taxpayer money that could have been used to buy healthy food, implement strategies in someone's own life to prevent cancer in the first place, and yet we've taken their money from being able to do that, afford healthy food, afford healthy lifestyle choices. Instead, we pump that money. That's what the government really is. It is a front group for big industry to steal our money and hand it over to the rich. That's what they're doing. We need to realize that. We need to realize a lot of these front groups, the National Cancer Institute, the American Cancer Society, and others are nothing. Susan G. Komen, you could practically go through them all. If we would just realize that they're front groups for Big Pharma, we'd be a lot further ahead. So broken promises, I hope nobody falls for that. I thought to myself, maybe Biden was actually talking about completely eliminating and barring Monsanto from selling glyphosate in America. Maybe that's what he meant. He's talking about curing cancer, not preventing cancer in the first place. The best physician is one who prevents cancer from ever occurring in somebody's body. The worst physician is the one that treats the illness in the end, because they weren't smart enough to actually help you understand what you could do to prevent it in the first place. There's so many. I mean, if you have constipation, it's one of the biggest things I go and tell people. If you have constipation, if you don't go to the bathroom number 2 up to twice a day, if you go once, slight increase, if you go less than once a day, you have a significantly elevated risk of cancer in your lifetime. Because your body's not functioning properly, you wouldn't be eliminating waste. There are studies that they section out, they literally cut out section of women's colons when they have a paralytic area of their colon where they become constipated. Feces doesn't move through, the bowels don't move efficiently, and cutting it out, and they reverse precancerous lesions in the breast tissue of these women. There's studies on this, folks. So if we can study why the digestive tract isn't functioning properly and correct that, you know what? What we're doing then is we are listening to the body's warning signs, we're taking note of the check engine light, and then we're actually deciding to fix the underlying cause, improve the body. And now I'm not saying, hey, women, if you have constipation, go have portions of your colon cut out. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just using that as an example of we literally know that women who don't go to the bathroom on a regular basis, on a daily basis, have an elevated risk of breast cancer. And they even find bile in the breast tumors in studies. So we know that we need to move our bowels regularly. We need to detoxify. We need to be eating healthier. So whatever it be, maybe it's a poor nutrition in terms of their diet. Maybe it's because they have compressed nerves in their lower back that carry information from the brain to the intestines. Whatever the cause of constipation may be, correcting that underlying cause enables the body to function better, be healthier, and then you're ultimately lowering your risk of cancer in the future. But again, I was thinking about it, maybe Joe Biden was talking about, maybe if we had a president saying, you know what, I'm going to do what is necessary to get industry out of government, to end the lobbying, to end the pharmaceutical reign of the healthcare industry. Maybe if Joe Biden was talking about, we're going to start telling people about the fact that we have studies on prostate cancer and even breast cancer where we change the genetic expression of the individual's body, and their genetic expression is altered in a positive direction when they eat a plant-based diet. That we have studies on prostate cancer patients and they can reverse and arrest prostate cancer by eating a plant-based diet. We have studies on the worst type of breast cancer, triple negative breast cancer, that women who ate a plant-based diet or a higher level of a plant-based nutritious diet, they had a quadrupling of their survival rate. But I don't hear anyone talking about that in mainstream media or our presidential candidates talking about, we're going to take the evidence we already have, the money we've already spent on the science that shows that detoxification, nutrition, and other factors have a huge part in both preventing the development and then also enabling somebody to survive long term or even curing their own cancer. We're going to start giving people that information. That would be a great presidential candidate, in my opinion. But instead, we have candidates giving false promises, ultimately with the idea to deceive, and this is what I see it as, okay? I can't say Joe Biden is definitely trying to deceive people. Maybe he is thinking in the back of his head and he's legitimately like, we're going to cure cancer because as soon as I become president, we're going to make sure that we utilize the information we've already developed through government-funded research. There's government-funded research showing nutrition and other aspects and detoxification improve survival rates of cancer patients. Why aren't we using that information? Because it doesn't make Big Pharma, the biggest lobbying organizations in the world, it doesn't make them money. So sadly, I don't have a lot of faith in this individual, but the reality is we have a lot of information that we could be using. And it's funny that you see Monsanto being sued and found guilty of poisoning the entire country, and especially those who work with the chemical glyphosate or glyphosate, however you would like to say it. But Monsanto is causing cancer, but yet our government, the EPA says, our government bodies like the EPA, government committees, are saying that glyphosate, the main ingredient Roundup, doesn't cause cancer. But yet they're being found guilty. They're being found out in court. Court is literally the place where you get to lay out all the information and the court decides who's going to win this side, which side of the argument is going to win. And the side of the argument saying glyphosate, Roundup is causing cancer, they're winning. They've won. We know that Roundup can cause cancer, yet the EPA officials, and this is sad because even at the moment, the very moment in time when Monsanto is losing in court, cancer patients are being awarded billions of dollars because the courts are proving, lawyers are proving that the individual's cancer was caused by glyphosate or Roundup. The EPA is claiming it doesn't cause cancer. They're doing that to protect the financial investment. They're doing that to protect an industry that is corrupt and evil. And sadly, the EPA is corrupt and evil as well. And we know that because EPA officials have even been quoted in saying, if I kill that committee or that investigation into Roundup, I should get a medal. That's literally what one of these EPA officials once was caught saying when communicating and talking with executives and members of and employees of Monsanto. He's literally like, I'll kill that, I'll destroy that, I'll water down the reality that you're causing cancer with your chemical. I know my job, according to the appearance and what we tell the American public, I know that my job is supposed to be protecting the American people against being poisoned, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to protect your profits, Monsanto. It's truly disheartening and heartbreaking. So I know that some people are probably going to sit here and watch this video and think to themselves, how in the world can this guy be showing me number of people dying from cancer? Because if you go back to the slides and you look at all the number of people, the true number of people dying from cancer, you can see that it went from in the 200,000s to over 600,000. Our population hasn't grown that drastically. The rates of cancer have gone up, folks. And we have to accept that fact. And we have to see that we cannot continue to trust the same old committees, the same old government bodies, the same old party members, and the same old drug companies and medical physicians who have failed us already. And in fact, I'll show you the evidence, and the research is actually showing that medical community is failing us miserably. They can't keep up with the accurate medical information and scientific evidence of what cancer treatments are actually effective and which ones aren't. So here I wanted to talk a little bit about how are they saying that cancer rates, the death rate from cancer has declined. Because if you Google it really quickly and you just search for cancer rates in America increasing or decreasing, what are the cancer rates in America? And you'll quickly find that according to cancer.gov, in the United States, the overall cancer death rate has declined since the early 1990s. The most recent SEER Cancer Statistic Review released in April 2018 shows that cancer death rates decreased by 1.8 per year among men from 2006 to 15, 1.4% among women 2006 to 2015, 1.4 per year among children ages 0 to 19 from 2011 to 2015. Although death rates from many individual cancer types have also declined, rates for a few cancers have stabilized or even increased. So how are they saying from 1991 to 2015, the overall cancer death rate in the United States fell by 26%? How are they saying that when I had just shown you that from 1991, there was 514,657 people who died from cancer. In 2015, it was 589,000. So right there you have the American Cancer Society, the CDC's own statistics. Right there, there's two organizations looking at the estimated number of people who died from cancer in those 2 years. It went up. That is the total number. That number went up from 1991 to 2015. So how are they saying that it fell by 26%? Well, the statistics are mainly skewed through a process of utilizing detection, early detection or more detection, and the incidence of cancer, showing that the incidence of cancer goes up with the more you screen for cancer. And as they use incidence of cancer, detection or total diagnoses of cancer, in comparison to mortality of cancer, they can make the statistics look really, really good. And here's how. So if you just take thyroid cancer for an example, and again, if you TWD and you want to read the entire document here in front of me, maybe I'll do a future video, and I will, on this document right here. But if you look at thyroid cancer incidence and mortality in the United States, so as you look at the graph in front of you on the screen, if you look at the thyroid cancer incidence and then incidence of papillary thyroid cancer and then the thyroid cancer mortality, that light blue line that is completely flatlined from 1975 all the way to 2015. All right, you see that flat line at the bottom. That is the total mortality from thyroid cancer, and this is per rate of 100,000. What has happened to the cancer rate in America, the death rate from thyroid cancer, this specific cancer? Nothing has happened to the overall death rate. So there's been no decline in the number of people dying of thyroid cancer. But if you look, in the 1970s, they started to promote a little bit of thyroid cancer detection. They really hardcore promoted it in the late to mid 1980s, and especially in 1990s. Everyone had to go out, and just like getting a mammogram, you had to go out and get your thyroid checked for papillary cancers and other cancers. You had to get checked and scanned for thyroid cancer. So what happened to the incidence, the number of people being diagnosed with cancer? It went way up. So when you do a ratio of the number of people being diagnosed compared to the number of people dying, the rates looked a lot worse back in 1975 because not many people were being diagnosed in comparison to now in 2010, 2015, and today. So as the rates of detection went up, mortality and death rates stayed the same. If diagnosing people with cancer due to early screening, mammography or thyroid cancer actually saved lives, then what we should see is there should be a decline, a subsequent decline in the overall mortality, but there isn't. Folks, this is how they're lying to us right in front of our face. If you look at their own research and evidence and statistics over the years, you see nothing has happened to these cancer rates. And in fact, more people are dying today of cancer in the United States than they were in the 1970s. So I'm tired of these broken promises. I want people to be given a truth about health, and this is why I do these videos. So I hope you've been blessed by the information. You know a little bit more about how we can't fall for the same old lies, and you tell your neighbor and you tell your friend. So one more article I think everybody should take the time to read is U.S. Cancer Care Delivery System. And delivery is in crisis. The cancer treatment has grown so complex, many U.S. doctors can't keep up with the new information or offering incorrect treatments, failing to explain the options and leaving patients to coordinate their own care. Imagine that. Today, cancer doctors can't keep up with the evidence using the same old chemotherapy drugs. You name it, they're doing the same old things. We're not beating cancer with what we're doing. Coordinate their own care, according to a report released on Tuesday by the Institute of Medicine. Doctors can't even keep up with the available evidence. This is why I sit down with cancer patients all the time in my office, and when I discuss with them what their doctor has already discussed, and their oncologist has already discussed with them, sitting down with a breast cancer patient. Sitting down with a woman and then talking with her about nutrition and what it can do, she literally told me that my oncologist said nutrition has nothing to do with cancer. There's no way it could help me. She was here because she knew that to be false, but she's telling me what her oncologist was telling her about the additional strategies she was using. She still chose to go with chemotherapy and surgery, but the reality is she was told by her oncologist nutrition had no part in it. She had triple negative breast cancer. I literally pulled out a study off my computer, said, here you go, printed it for her, said, this study right here shows that a woman who eats a stronger plant-based nutritional diet, she can quadruple her survival chances if she has triple negative cancer. She had never been shown that. She'd never been told that. She was told the opposite. See, that right there, that bad evidence, the cancer care system that is in crisis. There may be a good oncologist in your community, but if they're not able to give you the research and evidence that shouldn't be alternative, that should be bar minimum, the mainstream should be utilizing things that only assist your body in improving its immune response, improving the body's detoxification pathways, or improving hormonal regulation and the direction your estrogen goes. All these things are things that we can do with proper testing and techniques and nutritional guidance to enable somebody's body to work better, and it's all backed by the research. Those things that are harmless to the individual, only beneficial, should be the foundation of any cancer protocol, in my opinion. So I hope you're all blessed by this. Take time to read these articles, read this research, TWD in the comments on Facebook, and you can get the links to the articles or research studies. If you're on YouTube, you've got to go into the description below, and you click on the link in there, and it'll lead you to the blog where you'll have the references that I spoke about here today. Now, I want to make sure and I remind everybody, make sure you're subscribing, you're liking, you're doing those things. Hopefully, I'll be able to stay on these media outlets without being censored for too long or cut off. But you've got to share personally, you've got to tag people, because really it is being censored at this moment. The word, the truth about healthcare, or quote unquote what they call alternative healthcare, which should be the primary way in which health is delivered to people is being censored. So make sure that you're doing your best to help us share the truth. You're not just liking it, because liking the truth doesn't lead us into a future that saves more lives. So don't just like the truth, share it, because that's the only way we save lives.